So we're going to return to a practice called cat and mouse. And in this practice, we imagine that we're a cat sitting in front of a mouse hole. And we're waiting for a thought to pop its head out of the hole. So the thought is our little mouse. And what we start to notice is as soon as we take that approach, we can be sitting there waiting for a thought. A thought seems like it takes ages to appear. And that tells us our first interesting thing. That we still know we're very much present. We still know that we are, even while we're waiting for a thought, when there is no thought at all. There's still the sense, I am, or I exist. And that sense, I am, obviously isn't connected to the thought process. It suggests that we are something completely different that doesn't require thought constantly in order to be there. Thought might arise, and thought might melt away. No single thought lasts more than a fleeting moment. There's just an endless series of separate, discrete thoughts when they do appear. And we can examine those or observe those thoughts almost like a scientist observing something under a microscope. There's a million miles of difference between observing a thought and getting tangled up in it and becoming completely lost, losing our grip on what's really happening. So keep observing, waiting for a thought to appear. A thought does appear. Quickly put your lab coat on and go into science mode and observe that thought. See what it's made of. Is it made of anything? Where did it come from? How long does it last? Now we see that there are thoughts which are clearly a type of thing or a type of object. They're separate and discrete, and like any object, we're able to observe them. When we become tangled up in those thoughts, you could say that we drop our white scientist's coat and we put on a different costume, one of the thinker. Every thought is only known by the thinker. If there was no thinker, then the thought wouldn't even be known, it wouldn't be noticed. But the position that we're resting in right now comes even before the thinker, and that is the observer, or the awareness. Or the knowing. And that knowing, or that awareness, is what we feel ourselves to be right now. When there are these moments that we aren't identified as the thinker of thoughts, where we simply clearly see everything as it is. So when we rest as this cat, observing the mouse hole, which you could say is the thinker, waiting for the mouse, which is the thought, to appear. And as the cat, we are the pure, open awareness or knowing. We can simply watch the thoughts appear and leave the thinking mind. We don't need to become tangled or associated with them. And whether many thoughts stick their head out or very few stick their head out, the sense of being the observer or the knowing or the awareness never changes or shifts. It never alters. That sense of being present is always there. Whether we're aware of thinking and thoughts, or whether we are aware of the absence of thinking thoughts, we're still present and aware. We don't vanish. We don't come and go. But what we might feel is that it's a very peaceful, quiet place to rest. It's very peaceful. Just resting as the observer. And we notice as soon as this observer is getting pulled into activity of thinking or some other activity in the mind, because we feel a shift or an irritation or an agitation, however subtle, it feels as if we get bumped or knocked out of our peaceful place as the observer. literally feel as if we're getting pulled towards something, pulled away from our center. And if you notice that happening, however subtle, one long, slow breath is all it takes to bring you back to your natural place, a place where you're just openly aware, not tangled, not stuck in your thoughts. And the more we practice this, the more we see that we never were the thoughts, not in the way that we imagined ourselves to be. The thoughts appear and the thoughts disappear, and that's their nature. We can never stop that. Just as the thinker seems to appear and the thinker seems to disappear. But the observer, or the witness, or the awareness behind all of that activity is constant. We may just lose touch with it for a moment because we become so tangled up in something else. We forget we're actually observing. If we weren't, then it wouldn't exist. If the observer or the awareness somehow vanished, there would be no thinker and no thoughts to be aware of. Nothing would exist without awareness of it. So in our investigation, we find it's impossible to contemplate that we are anything other than that awareness. So you can return to that as many times as you remember during your day. Just notice your breath again. You may have completely forgotten about it. And allow it to start coming a little deeper, a little bit more energy. Slowly counting up 5 breaths from 0 up towards 5, and with each breath, just feeling that connection with your physical body again, and the ground underneath you, space around you. Maybe finding some gentle movement or a bit of a stretch or whatever feels useful for you. Of course, if you want to just stay contemplating, it's your practice and you're more than welcome to. Oh. And just opening your eyes when you feel ready, if you're going to finish now. Hope that's useful. It's a real observation exercise. So we started with concentration. I suppose there was a brief period of mindfulness, but then there's this observation of what am I directly? It's like, what actually am I? And in that we start to sort of dissolve some of the misunderstandings we have because we so desperately believe that we are the thinking mind or the thoughts. But we start to step back each time and we see there's only one possible explanation, and that is that we are the thing that's aware of the thinking and aware of the thoughts. If we weren't, then they simply wouldn't exist at all, because there would be nothing to be aware of them. So everything else can come and go, or appears to come and go, but the awareness can never ultimately go anywhere. And when we observe it, the awareness doesn't really do anything. It just is. It's just present. That's its only recognizable characteristic, that it is present. It doesn't do anything else. Yeah, so that's a sort of another sort of practice. We haven't done that sort for a while. But yeah, just if you lose track sometimes, I'm just giving a taste of all sorts of different practices: concentration, focus, mindfulness, and you could call that a direct inquiry or self-investigation if you want. That's just another sort of meditation. And some of those will click with you and some of those will not click with you. So don't worry if one sort really seems great and others seem confusing or don't fit with you so much. That's just the nature of practice. Some things just work well at a certain time and other things will work better. But yeah, if I give a taste of everything, then hopefully you'll find something that fits.